Hey y'all!
Hi.
We're in our new place and we're sitting
We're sitting.
and we're not on the floor because we have furniture. Not a whole lot, but we have furniture. So we're just happy about that. Hope you're having a fantastic day. We're talking about something that's pretty interesting. No matter where it is that you go, you're gonna, once you start mentioning it to people, everybody's gonna have advice for you. Everybody's gonna tell you, oh, you need to do this and this and this and this, or they'll give their personal perspective if they've been there. So what we decided to do is put together a little list. It's about 7 things to keep in mind when you're gathering your advice, to keep in mind when you're doing your research about the place that you're gonna go, okay? So the first thing, keep in mind the age of the person that's giving you the advice. That plays a big factor because their activity level, the things that they might be interested in, and for that matter, the place that you're going might not necessarily cater to the elderly versus the young. Quick example, in Portugal, as well as in Spain, there's cobblestone everywhere. But particularly in Portugal, the cobblestone is even smaller and even more jagged.
Makes sense.
We were there for 3 months, and that was really tough to deal with. People who live there eventually adapt to it. People who've moved there from the States or from other parts of Europe said it took some getting used to, but they've adapted. Well, if you're going to be taking somebody with you, or if you're someone of a different age, you have to put that into perspective as to whether or not that's going to go over well.
Yeah. And also, too, if you're traveling with older ones, or even if, well, yeah, if you're traveling with older ones, what the culture and the view is, because you don't want to be out and people are rude and disrespectful. They had, like, on the buses in Portugal, designated areas for the elderly to sit. Oh, which would mean you need to be aware of your age while you're traveling.
Correct.
Because if you're going on public transportation and you just sit down somewhere not realizing that it's been reserved for older people, they'll look at you some sort of way and maybe even try to say some things to you. And if they're saying things to you, then you better move.
So the second thing you want to keep in mind is the status of the person that you're getting the advice or info from. If they're single and you're married, or if they're a couple with no kids and you have 75,
75?
hey,
Can you travel?
if you got some money. Anyway, if you have, that changes things considerably. Anybody with kids know that kids have a big impact on how you travel. So be mindful of that because they might be completely excited about something and you won't have as good a time because you're not going to be able to do the type of activities. And the vice versa is the same. Because they're single, it's more of a family friendly place and they kind of want to do the out in the wild, adventurous type thing, and it just kind of wasn't for them. They'll speak badly about it, but it might be perfect for you.
Yeah. So those of us who know us, we don't have kids. So a lot of things we say are going to come from a perspective of two that don't have children, but we seem to be pretty aware of ourselves when we travel. So we can always think about our experience and see how it could work for people that have children, or if they're traveling single, areas that may or may not work for them.
True.
Yeah. So we try to be sensitive.
We try.
We try.
I'm a sensitive man, but I'm still hard.
Okay, so the next one, standard of living. And I had to write this word down, so let me look at my notes. The socio-economic level of the person that you're talking to.
Basically, if they got money and you don't, they might not be the best people to get advice from because the standard of living is different. What they consider ghetto might be different than yours.
It could be okay for us.
Exactly.
I'm okay. I come from Slauson and Crenshaw side of town of LA and Normandy and Western, so I'm not scared.
So,
but to them, they'll freak out.
Exactly. So, another example, if when the person that's giving advice normally stays at the Ritz and you stay at Motel 6, Your perspective, their perspective is going to be completely different than yours. So keep in mind the people that are giving you advice, that they're somewhat relative to where you are in life, so that you can kind of get a realistic expectation. It kind of goes back to the whole ratings conversation that we had in the previous video. Try to find people that are kind of in the middle so that you can get the most honest
Now,
feedback.
unless this is a splurge of a trip,
True that.
and you want to talk to people who live, you're here like we are. Well, we're really down here.
Yeah, below the camera.
But let's say you're here and you want your trip to have this level of an experience.
And you've saved up
And you saved up
to ball out.
There you go.
Then
it would make perfect sense.
it makes perfect sense.
Okay. Cool.
So we talked about the type of traveler. So number 4 is going to be the type of traveler. Make sure that you guys are on par with that as well. Because if you're like me, super laid back, if we go for a 5-day trip, I'm cool with being in the hotel for the first 3 days. I'm just cool. Whereas
I can't.
if the person that you're traveling with is one of those eco tourists and like to do hang gliding and what's the thing?
Is that Paris?
No, zip line. The zip line type stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to give you a completely, the place was really boring. Well, it was boring because it didn't have all those activities.
It had safety, concrete streets.
And some
Police.
people like being in the jungle.
Well, there's the literal jungle and then the concrete jungle.
Okay, no, we're not talking about that. It's not the literal, like when we were in Ecuador.
I had a moment. I'm sorry, you guys.
I'm
my heart is racing because you brought back some
I'm
memories.
telling you, we were in a little city in Ecuador
My heart is racing.
where
Lord.
it's known for people to come from all over the world to do bird watching and stuff like that. And I promise to you,
No.
if by chance this woman had no clothes on at the time, she'd have ran out down the street butt naked. There was a giant butterfly that happened to be black that flew in, and she thought it was a bat. And she didn't have her glasses on. She didn't have her contacts in. She didn't have her glasses on. She just saw black flying and ran out the door down the street. She happened to have some clothes on that time. So just saying, the type of traveler that you're getting advice from is key into whether or not they're going to give you a report that will do well with you.
And or activities when you're traveling with a group.
True that.
Same trip, we were in a group, still in a jungle-esque setting, and everybody was going to go whitewater rafting.
How many people?
Everybody. Except these two, because we were like, we don't do that. No, you tell us how it is. And then the sweet little girl said to me, well, so-and-so who's organizing it knows that I have asthma and I don't da-da-da-da. And I'm thinking, okay, well, if it's safe for you, she says, if it's safe for me, it must be safe for everybody.
We almost died that day.
Yeah. It was
literally.
Yeah, it was beautiful until the incident.
Yeah, until after lunch.
Until after the lunch as you're rafting. But that's the other thing. So, when you're talking to people and the type of traveler, they might try to encourage you to do things and have an open mind. I'm not saying don't do it, but also really go with your gut on certain things.
They might be adventurous and you just want to go sightseeing.
Yeah.
So
that took me there, Carlton. Yes, you did. Taste buds. The person you're talking to. What kind of food do they like to eat?
Are they adventurous with food?
Yeah, because as an example, if you're traveling, let's talk about like some of these Asian countries. Spice. If you're going to India, Korea, I don't think in Japan or anything, but like depending on where you're at, they might have either spicy food or things that can make your food spicy.
Or
eat together.
They'll ask you what level
of hot you would like. So if the person you're talking to is really heavy into that kind of stuff, they might not really let you know about the food.
Like, you need to go to this restaurant and
then
get
you get
this
there
thing.
and you order it. And when you're ordering, let the person know if you're not into spicy food and the person who recommended those places, just to go with the mild. You can always make things hotter. But
you can always add pepper.
Yeah, because once it's hot, there's no taking it down.
Yeah, that's true. I like spice. So usually Anything between a medium and slightly more than that, I'm cool with. But everybody's medium is different. So a medium at one restaurant and the restaurant right across the street that serves the same food might burn your face off. So start with mild, add some heat if you want to. You know, I think the other thing is, does the person that is giving you the advice, do they cook? And the reason that I say that is people who cook a lot or experiment with flavors a lot are always trying to discover new things. If they don't, or if they're not adventurous, they like to stay within this little box, they might not necessarily enjoy the food as much. And you go there and it's a smorgasbord of just flavors and tastes and things. You know, we personally know people who will go someplace and eat the same thing practically every day because they're not trying to venture outside of that box. So you got to keep that in mind as well. Somebody tells you how delicious something is.
You know what delicious is, even if you've never had it before. Let's just say that real quick.
Right. Right.
You don't need to be an expert in all things of that dish to know if you like it or not.
True.
So when you're talking and asking them about what the food was in that area, you know, look at what their preferences.
Average food taste. When you go out to dinner, what do they order? Do they order the baked chicken every time?
You just might need to take that into consideration.
Right. So the last two things that we're going to mention are actually on the more serious side, things to really, really, really consider.
Okay. Oh, now that's you to start off with.
Sex. What's the sex of the person that's giving you the advice? Particularly because outside of the United States particularly, we'll just talk about United States. Certain countries have a different perspective or different view of women. Especially if you're traveling by yourself or you're traveling with other women. Certain places you're not going to be allowed in. Certain things you're not going to be able to do. Certain ways people are going to look at you or even treat you. And then you add the age to that as well. You can have a completely different experience than otherwise. And I'm not saying this is not one of those, well, you need to take a man with you everywhere you go. This isn't one of those type things, but it's something to really consider. Because we'd hate for you to save up your money for this fantastic trip that you want to go on, and then that's the thing that ruins it for you.
Yeah, safety it's huge. And I know when I was in India, the reports that were coming back on assaults against women, dude, I mean, I was hearing stuff and telling him and emailing him, and it hadn't even hit the news in the States. So you want to just be aware of yourself. If anyone who is watching this that is in the States, you know, you enjoy a lot of freedoms as a woman here. You dress how you feel comfortable, and then you travel. And maybe the person you spoke with, if it was a guy, didn't really notice that the women were covered up. And I'm not saying like
in a burqa,
but I mean something as simple as taking tank tops may not be appropriate. You know, shoulders might need to be covered. You know, you might need to be aware of just carrying a scarf with you because you might need to put something. I don't know, but we do take for granted as women when we're here in the States that we have just certain freedoms that we don't really understand how it can affect our ability to enjoy travel when we're in other places.
True that.
And then the last one.
This is real talk.
Real talk. Race. Not trying to start anything, not trying to say, oh, really, Versha, it's not that serious. Yes, it is.
Some places, most places, a lot of places, it still is.
It is still a big thing. I mean, we talking safety for real. For not just yourself, but for the group you're traveling with.
Now, typically, you would think that we're only speaking from the perspective of, say, me, people of color, you know.
People don't know what to think when they see me. They're like, what is that?
Yeah, they know what I am, but her. So it's not just that. It's not just, oh, people look down on darker skinned people or black people or people of color. You also have to be careful if you are not a person of color.
That could work against you. I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah.
It is very possible. A friend was telling us that when her and her husband traveled to this country, I won't name it, that there were certain activities they couldn't do because she's tall, she's white, blonde
Skinny,
hair,
blonde,
blue
blue
eyes,
eyes.
beautiful girl. And they're like, we can't take her in certain parts of the city because she'll be a target for kidnapping. Whereas she told me this. She says, now you and Carlton, y'all will be okay. I said, really?
People might actually feel sorry for us and give us money,
So
which we do take donations. I'm just saying.
you're gonna
I ain't too proud to beg.
little sign and a little cup.
TLC.
Really?
I'm just
Anyway, but no, seriously. So the person who's talking to you that talked about either how wonderful the time was or how terrible it was. We had some friends that came from a Latin country, 2 males that kind of look like Carlton, if you know where I'm going, and they didn't really have that great of a time. So
and it wasn't one of those, oh, we just had a bad time.
no,
It was very specific.
They had specific instances, and that kind of had us on high alert when we went, but we didn't have that experience. So you're not going expecting it, but it's going to help you be aware of yourselves and the locations you might choose to go and the time of day.
all of
and
those
that's all.
things. All of those
But
things factor
yeah,
in.
it does play a role in the person. Unfortunately, their experience could also be reflective on how the people treated them very nicely or not so nice.
So, quick review, because the video is a little bit longer than our normal, but
Yeah.
these things were really important. Number 1, age. Number 2, status. Number 3, the standard of living. Number 4, type of traveler. Number 5, taste buds. Number 6, sex. Number 7, race. When you're gathering your information, when you're doing your recon, make sure that you factor in all those things when people are giving you advice so you can have a fantastic trip.
Yes.
Okay, we're out of here, yo.
See you guys.
Take care.